Well, I always like to start with something a little amusing that kind of fits the talk or maybe makes a point about the talk. So I went looking this morning for church signs. You know, church signs on the street are sometimes some of the most entertaining things, or church bulletins happen. But I found these today, and they may not be as amusing as they are important to look at the energies behind them. Here's a few I found. Some people are kind, polite, and sweet-spirited until you try to sit in their pew. You think we're immune to that? I've seen people, that's my chair. Many folks want to serve God, but only as advisors. You've met them. Forgive your enemies. It really messes with their heads. Here's a good one. The fact that there's a highway to hell and only a stairway to heaven says a lot about the anticipated traffic numbers. This one requires a little bit more thought. When you throw mud at someone, you lose ground. Wah, wah. And then the one that was most important is be kind whenever possible. Professional tip, it's always possible. Last week we began a 4-week series on the word be. Say that with me, be. We were celebrating being, and we are for the whole month. And last week we began the series with a talk I knew was going to hit home for a lot of people because it always does. It was be bold. Be magnificently, be creatively, be joyously, the beautiful you, the powerful you. And a new thought, we love to hear that message all the time. Just be you because you're not broken, you're not stained, you don't need to be fixed. You are holy and you are sacred. And we always like those warm, fuzzy talks. And it was a great springboard into the rest of the talk, which is going to involve maybe a little bit more responsibility. But being bold is not easy. Have you noticed that? Being yourself is not necessarily easy. But being bold has a sister that is sometimes the problem child. Being bold has a sister that sometimes it's a little bit harder to swallow. It's a little bit hard to swallow because it requires a great deal of our humility. You see, there must be a partnership with boldness, and that is humility. And so the sister I want to introduce you to today in our series, and the title of today's talk is Be Benevolent. Say that with me. When unleashing our inner boldness, our inner warrior, our inner superhero, which we did last week, there's always a danger, isn't there, of becoming very me-centric. Have you noticed that New Thought tends to promote that a lot? It's about me, my ideas, what I want, and I'm standing in my power and my truth. And we end up bulldozing our way through life. It happens. Some people in New Thought, they come and they hear about their divine nature for the first time and they become monsters. It's alive, it's alive. Boldness can become spiritual bravado pretty darn quickly. Have you noticed that? Have you felt that? Have you experienced that? I have. Being benevolent gives direction and purpose to our boldness. The divine masculine must have a divine feminine, or guess what? Destruction happens. The divine masculine of boldness must have the benevolence and the kindness and the compassion and the softness and the gentility. Otherwise, we wreak havoc over people. And there's a long line of people in our trail. As I stated last week, being bold is not about your personality. So many people hear that and go, I'm supposed to just let my personality out everywhere. No, it's about the Christ of you. It is about the light of you. It is the Buddha nature of you. It is not about your personality. And so being benevolence, the energy of that kindness is a necessary component to keep our personalities in check. And look, let's get real, folks. Unity attracts a lot of big personalities. Have you noticed that? But that benevolence will keep us in check with a gentler and softer desire to use our God-given powers, our God-given strengths for altruistic, for beneficent, and thoughtful kindnesses rather than domination. Our men's group, why it's so successful, is because, yes, they are empowered to be fully male, and they're also empowered to be fully divinely feminine at the same time. That partnership is necessary, and one without the other creates a world that doesn't work. They must be dancing. They must be co-creative. So that's what puts the personality in check. And I'm reminded of Jesus' words, the master teacher. And I don't have any monitor up there, so I'm going to assume that the lyrics, the words will be up there that you can read. But I invite you to say this with me together. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. And blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons and daughters of God. Now, Jesus didn't say daughters in there, but I thought he was a little bit remiss. He might have gone unconscious for a minute. It's cultural. So we add daughters because their male and female existed. The Christ is actually the female presence of the man Jesus. They are in partnership. And the same true about John, about Carrie, about Tom. There is a divine feminine presence that must be activated. So rather than blasting out our opinions, our needs, and our desires from a bold place with no consideration for the environment, the immediate environment, and the environment that is our collective shared earthly experience, we allow strength and love to be partners. Strength and love to be partners. There are 12 powers that the Fillmores say are necessary for the Christ to express, for the light of our being. Strength and love are two of them. They must be dancing. Will and wisdom, absolutely. The will, the boldness to achieve, and the wisdom to know when to act and when to step back, when to be gentle, when to be quiet, as well as when to speak up. Power, our ability to manifest the world that we want. We have been given this faculty to very strongly use the power of our spoken word to create the experience we want on earth, but it must be tempered with understanding. I've only mentioned 6 of the 12 powers, but they are all working together in a great cohesive tapestry that allows the Christ to be born in us and on earth. Now, one of the boldest characters in the Bible that I just wrestle with and struggle with is the guy that took Jesus' ministry and then took it to a whole different level, St. Paul. He and I wrestle a lot in the quiet moments of my Bible study. But he did say some things that are really, really important. And perhaps the most quoted scripture from that beautiful document, St. Paul said in his letter to the people of Corinth, his first letter to the people of Corinth. Let's go ahead and read this together. Put the next one up together. If I speak with the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. If I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have faith that can move mountains, but have not love, I am nothing. Whew, that's pretty powerful. That's pretty bold, isn't it? But it's boldly putting out there for the world to see that I must have love. I must have strength and love together. Otherwise, I am nothing, or you will be nothing in no short time. You will be imploding upon yourself as a bulldozer of destruction. Now, many people who know my wife and I, my wife Susie and I, we are a great yin and yang, displaying these energies, and we have had to do a great dance in our relationship. And for those that know my wife, and she's okay with me saying this, she tends to carry the divine masculine in our relationship. She is one of the boldest people I know. Susie loves to speak her mind, and she's not one to pull punches when it comes to letting truth be known. And I tend to be a softer presence, maybe a weaker presence, because there are times where I need to be bold and I'm not. So the dance that we do together on our relationship is great, but make no mistake about it, and I'm sure the board and the staff will tell you, I can play the other role. Susie and I switch roles a great deal, but the yin and the yang works. So what happens in our relationship is that one of us will be channeling our inner warrior, standing up for justice and standing up for what is right and what is good and needs to be spoken, while the other notices that it might be getting a little bit out of control. There's something to a gentle touch on the elbow or an arm just on the back. There's a better way to do this. Or in our house, what we find most effective, more than words, is to get each other's eye and go like this. You all recognize it? There's somebody in your life that plays that for you. That breath, that touch, just stops the pattern of a boldness of the warrior that's about to do something that might be destructive and awakens a higher reality. Yin-yang works well, and it works in reverse. You know what? Meekness without the boldness, you just crawl into a hole and die. Both are necessary. This is not just a strategy for couples. This is not couples therapy. This is a strategy for the energies that are going on inside of you right now. with what's going on in the world, there is both divine feminine and masculine. There is both a warrior and there is also benevolence that is calling for expression. And so we need to pay attention to it. Thus, this series, which will take us to next week's message, Be Born Again. We will be born again, but we need the feminine and the masculine energies to be born anew. If we keep doing the same thing we've always done, we're going to get the same thing we've always got. And I don't know about you, but I'm ready for something different. So there must be that partnership of male and female within me to first give birth to a new reality between my ears. A new reality existing in my heart. You see, have you noticed that boldness can take many forms? I've been very bold in the past and tried to find that inner warrior, and I came at it from the ego. It's all about me. It's all about what I need. It's all about what I want, and nothing else matters. But what I found in the New Thought movement and in Unity churches was that inner touch on the elbow, the ability when I am getting stirred up to feel that inner pat on the back that says, wait a minute, think before you speak. Get in touch with benevolence before you are about to be bold. Get in touch with the Christ before Richard, the man, does something that causes irreparable harm. I'd love to say I'm perfect, but I'm better than I used to be, and I'm getting better all the time, to quote Atiba. I'm wonderful, and I'm getting better. I get busy about being bold from this mindset with the partnership about what brings the highest good for the collective. What brings the highest good for all? What brings the highest good for the one? And I move from being a bulldozer to being a builder. A builder of what? I want to hear your answers. A builder of what? A builder of community. A builder of love. A builder of trust, peace, connection. What was that? Confidence. Oh, that's interesting. Benevolence, confidence in my kindness, confidence in my softer presence, in my divine feminine. Well, my words that I put in there, you're building people, and you're building community, and you're building connection. Boldness cannot do that alone. Boldness will tear down and destroy. Benevolence can see the possibility. Benevolence can see the opportunity from a standpoint of oneness that we belong to each other. Yes? You know, the golden rule, it's in every one of the major religions. It's not just the Bible. It's in every single one of them. But I'm going to go to the Bible, the Gospel of Matthew, which is my favorite. And this is the way he puts it. Do we have a slide for that? We don't. But I know you all know it. Do unto others as you would have done. Again, do unto others as you would have done unto you. In one form or another, that shows up in all the world religions. It might be something to pay attention to. The divine feminine is right there if we look for it and don't let the divine masculine push it aside and hide it in our scriptures, but we call it forth. From my unity-centric consciousness, I'm going to change Jesus' words because I believe it's more what he wanted to say. Do unto others is doing unto you. Because there's only one of us here. Boldness can't see that. Benevolence can see that. There is only one of us here. Say that with me. There is only one of us here. Benevolence recognizes the oneness, the unity. And it's in our fifth unity principle. I'm sure you all have committed it to memory. You know what it is. The truth that I know is the truth that I... Say that with me. The truth I know is the truth I demonstrate. And of course, we know the reason Unity North exists, our mission statement, it's right there as well. To recognize and to demonstrate and to share the divinity of each of us. Say that with me. To recognize, to demonstrate, and to share the divinity of each of us. Every time you come into this room, I want you to bring that idea to demonstrate that you are the Christ, Marie. That Patrice, you are the Christ. Michelle is the Christ. Cynthia is the Christ. I'm going to demonstrate that through my actions. And that sometimes gets lost in the boldness of my divine masculine. I've had a number of people tell me, you're too big, you're too wild. And rather than defend it and push against it, I go, I got something to learn there. Maybe the divine feminine needs to be operating here a little bit more. So I feel the inner... I feel the touch of an elbow. and the hand on my back, and I become a more effective man. I become a more effective minister. I become a kinder human being. You see, benevolence will say it's not just about ourselves, but there is a divinity of the multifaceted tapestry that is one holy and sacred singularity. Look at the tapestry. Look to your left and your right. Make eye contact with those that you are not separate from. Sisters and brothers, there's only one of us in the room. And that means boldness begins to look less like a bulldozer and more like a carpenter with a strong, open hand of kindness. I'm going at 3 o'clock today. John Ragland and and Susie are going down to dedicate the latest, this year's Habitat for Humanity build. Carpenters, these are rough and tumble guys that know how to put up a house fast, but they also know how to do it with love. And I'm going to be at that dedication ceremony to receive a plaque or a certificate to honor those who did that. But if there's anybody in the room who worked on that Habitat for Humanity house, I'm going to invite you to please stand that we may thank you and applaud you for your efforts and your gifts. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your paint. Thank you for your digging in the dirt. Thank you for the nails, the hammers, and the studs going up. That's boldness in action. It's putting boldness with benevolence to build a house for a family that they will never meet. Maybe never meet. Maybe you worked alongside of them. But we're going to go bless that family today. And here's something I want us to know. The loudest voice in the room is never the most powerful. Have you noticed that? The loudest voice in the room is never the most powerful. Anybody have a teacher growing up? And I had the teachers that would yell and scream and throw erasers at the kids to get their attention, and it never worked. And then Mrs. LaPointe would walk into the room, and she'd take that class, and she'd grab it here, my little short hairs, metaphorically, and she'd say, "It's time to begin. Let's begin." That class went from raucousness and craziness. I want to know what she's saying. It might be important. The kindest voice in the room is the loudest. Deanna Fleener, her passing this week, I was blown away with the number of people that were touched and that reached out to me, and I hope they were able, I kept them at bay as you were grieving, Bill, but the number of people that I thought, well, Deanna Fleener is just one of the crowd. She's just one of the crowd. She wasn't the loud voice, although she could have a loud voice. I've heard it. But she was the one who anonymously did a good, did a kindness, said, "How can I help?" Put a hand on somebody's shoulder. And the calls I got this week were profound, and I had tears every day of the week thinking about the impact that won't be in our congregation anymore. And I thought, well, that's kind of short-sighted, isn't it? That perhaps I can honor Deanna Fleener's legacy by being the hand, by being the anonymous donor, by being the first person who says, "I'm here for you. You're not alone. What do you need? You need a beach ball in the air? Great, I'll get it for you." No need for applause. No need for the pat on the back. That's what boldness wants. Tell me I'm good, coach. Tell me I'm good. It's let me just do what is mine to do and be benevolent and be kind and be generous. Deanna Fleener did that, and we will honor her legacy, not just today, but going forward by being that Christ essence and that Buddha presence in this community. Yes? There is a common misconception about the work of Charles Darwin. We like to go, in the new member class, we were talking about this yesterday, we like to go to science. You know, the Bible is not the only text that has good stuff in it. We talked about the Bhagavad Gita, the Tao. We also talked about the Gospel of Albert Einstein. There's a lot of good. And Charles Darwin, believe it or not, has been made to be an enemy of religious circles. Have you noticed that? Charles Darwin has been the other that we have pushed away as the other. Well, his work has been misinterpreted. He was credited with having written the word survival of the fittest. The man never wrote it. He has been credited with having espoused and spoken survival of the fittest. He never spoke it. So there are those biologists in the world today that are digging more deeply into the work of Charles Darwin and maybe pointing out that religious systems have really not paid attention. We've pushed away the very essence that we need to grow in our communities. And more accurately translating his work, it was survival of the kindest. And it's rampant in his books. More accurately, kindness was indicated as the recipe for the species that would climb the evolutionary ladder. We sit here today not as a result of boldness, but as a result of kindness. We sit here not because we are the fittest and the strongest and the toughest and the wealthiest. We sit here today as a nation, as a community, as a human race, because it's survival of the kindness. According to Professor Dr. Keltner, who is a psychologist who is digging into the works of Charles Darwin even more readily, Darwin and other biologists espoused cooperation as more important than competition. Hear that. Cooperation is more important than competition. Compassion is the reason that we are here today and we have survived here today, and it will be the reason that we survive tomorrow and the next day and the next day. In this church, I'm asking you to be a rebel, to be a maverick, to be a Deanna Fleener, and to find kindness when nobody else can find it. To find compassion when nobody else in the room feels that they can find compassion. Be the lone voice, be the rebel, be bold in your compassion. Be bold in your benevolence. Be bold in being the Christ. Especially when you think nobody else can find it. This is what Charles Darwin wrote. Let's put the next quote up there. Let's read it together. Those communities, which included the greatest number of the most sympathetic members, would flourish. Read that again, and as you do, I want you to feel the inner together. Those communities, which included the greatest number of the most sympathetic members, would flourish. Here we are. It's 9/11 today. And 21 years ago, we were brought to our knees with boldness, with attack, with very divine masculine energies that were used to wake up a nation and to wake up a humanity. And a lot of people celebrate 9/11 and what happened on 9/11. They remember it. They don't celebrate it. I celebrate what happened on 9/12. I want to commemorate tomorrow when I get up what happened after the divine masculine tore down. It was the divine feminine, because kindness ruled our nation. Nobody was asking, what political party are you? Nobody was asking, what religion do you belong to? Or do you believe in God or not? Nobody was asking, what is the color of your skin? Or what is your ethnic background? Or how much money do you make? Nobody asked those questions. But the hand of the builder said, how can I help? Let me reach out as your brother, as your sister, as your partner, as the divine essence. And let me be present to you for just a moment. And I grieve. I don't know when it happened, that energy lasted for a week, a month, maybe even a year. And then 2002, 2003, 2004, we fell back into our old patterns. I want to honor the lives that were lost on 9/11 by remembering today. I wrote a song that was written on 9/12, 2001. I'm just going to sing a couple of the lyrics of that song and invite you to feel an inner breath as you take them on as your own. Out of the ashes grew a seed, out of pain and human need. There grew a bloom that proved to be stronger than the darkness. Within the rubble there shone a light far beyond our human sight. There was an ember that could not be put out. There was kindness, there was mercy, forgiveness and compassion as we reached out to hold each other's hand. There was giving and caring, something greater we were sharing. From the ashes there grew a seed of love. From the ashes of the destruction by the divine masculine out of control, there will grow a seed of love, and we will be the tenders of that garden. From the loss and the pain of saying goodbye to a beloved congregant, ashes will be all that's left of the physical body. But from those ashes and the memories and the seeds that were planted, we will grow something beautiful, something amazing. And from the lives of those that were lost on 9/11, we will be the legacy. Their lives will not be in vain, because from the ashes we will grow a seed of love, of kindness, and compassion. The Dalai Lama knew this. Let's get Buddhist for a minute. This is what the Dalai Lama has to say about everything we're talking about today. Together, love and compassion are necessities, not luxuries. Without them, humanity cannot survive. You know, the move that we had as a human race, we went from individualism and we went to tribalism. And that was a good move. But tribalism is absolutely killing the planet today. Tribalism is absolutely killing the churches. It'll kill the inside of this church if we can't find kindness in our disagreements. But I'm calling us forward, and I'm challenging you in throwing the gauntlet down that we must make a move to cosmopolitanism. The cosmos. We are one family. We belong to each other, and that's the move in consciousness that's needed now more than ever. And I'm not waiting for election in November to do that. Too late. I'm not waiting for an election of a president in a couple more years. Too late. The gauntlet is thrown down now to be kind. Deanna Fleener passed this week. Carry the legacy now. Don't wait for any particular time. How many of us have waited 21 years to honor and to remember 9/11 on more than just one day? On 9/12. Anthropologist Margaret Mead once was asked what she considered to be the first sign of civilization. This was her answer. The first sign was a femur bone that had been broken and then healed. She explained that in the animal kingdom, but by the way, we are a part of the animal kingdom, yes? If you break your leg, you die. You break your leg, you can't run away from danger. You break your leg, you can't get to the pool to drink water. You can't hunt for food. In fact, you become the food with a broken leg. And so Margaret Mead said this was the moment when they discovered a femur that had been healed, that had been tended to long enough for the bone to heal. A broken femur that has healed is evidence that somebody has taken the time to stay with the one who fell. That somebody took the time to bind up the wound and then carry that person to safety. The broken femur healed was a symbol that somebody was protected and that somebody was benevolent, somebody was kind. Boldness doesn't do that. Be bold. Sucks to be you. Too bad. Here comes the saber-toothed tiger. Sorry, you don't belong to the same political party as me. Sorry. Die. We are inadvertently, as a human race, turning each other over for food to the next bully that comes down the street. That's got to stop on our watch. Boldness and benevolence are sisters, and it's not easy. If you're the lone voice wanting to be kind to the person and protect them from those that are circling, and they are circling. You want to gather an army these days, go gather an army against somebody. You can find them. I'll jump on that wagon. It's a little harder. I've said she's the problem child sister. No, let's be kind here. Be the lone voice in the room says maybe there's a higher way. Be bold enough to say, not on my watch, that kind of statement won't be made here. That kind of diversity or that kind of duality will not be on my watch because we belong to each other. So this is my brother, this is my sister. I will tend the bone, I will protect them, and I will carry them to safety. Those that do that are the ones that will be here 10, 20, 30 years from now. A nation that does that is the nation that will be here 10, 20, 30 years from now. The divine feminine, it's time to take the driver's seat in our lives, in our nation, in our country, and it has nothing to do with a female or a masculine body. It has everything to do with the Christ and the dance that is being called from within us. I'm going to invite the band to come up. I'm asking us to be the bold rebel right now. So to be born again, we'll talk about that next week as we celebrate my birthday. But I'm asking you to ask the questions on my birthday week is what's in it for the whole? What's in it for everyone? What's in it for the human race? How can I boldly make somebody else's life better as I make my own life better? See, it doesn't feel as good. Boldness last week, I'm a beautiful child of God. Yes, yes, and so is that person who's hurting. And their behavior, when is an animal, we said this in the new member class, when is an animal the most dangerous? When it is hurt, when it is wounded, when it is trapped, when it is cornered. There are a lot of wounded, trapped, cornered people on the planet today. They need us to counteract the divine masculine that put them there, that brought buildings to the ground. Let's be that softer presence. Let's have a little music, and then we're going to go into the meditation. Friday night, I got to spend some time with my Baha'i friends. I'm very, very connected to the Baha'i community here. And we debate and we argue a little bit, and they have a belief that God is the unknowable essence. You can't know God yet through kindness, through the attributes of God. And when they put that yet, that's when I find agreement with them. I'm not waiting around to find God in some heavenly place of reward. I hope I'm going that way. I want to find God as I look into Bill Coons' eyes. And I tell him I love him. And I love Deanna. And I love Joel and Marianne. We gathered at that bedside and wished her Godspeed. We found God in that moment. Deanna found God in that moment long before she transitioned. I want to find it with Rusty Morgan when I tease him about who's your daddy. And I jump into the pool that is your passion for men's work. And I want to find the presence of God as I look into your soul and you look into mine. That's where God will be found, in the kindnesses that we share with each other. In the moments that nobody's paying attention to, where I find the capacity to be the Christ and quit waiting around for the Christ to show up. That's being born again. I'm going to look into Tom's eyes. And we don't have to speak a word, but we're there as brothers. Everywhere I look, I see the face of God, and I see God in you. I want to cultivate that in my heart like I never have ever before. They say it comes with age. I'll be turning 60 next week. Maybe it is. But I tell you, as we talked about recently, the kids coming onto the planet, they're not waiting around till they're 60. We need to follow their lead. I'm going to leave you with a quote from Robert Burns, the great poet. I invite you to read this with me together. But deep this truth impressed my mind through all his works abroad. The heart, benevolent and kind, the most resembles God. Let's stop talking about God and let's start being God. Let's stop talking about love and kindness, and let's be love and kindness as we carry each other across the finish line of our destiny, of our purpose.